had to come on to ask the question, was Mr. Hope Houses fired, right? Or did he resign? And to ask about the 60 million. All right, because we've been asking about that 60 million that was in the HCF fund, and we have not we don't know what has happened to
Not
it
up to
yet.
now.
$60 million, and the houses are not there.
10,000, Marcy, I think 10,000 homes was it supposed
Yes,
to
this
be?
this is a 10,000 homes man here, he and his government, and he's gone, but we don't know about the 60 million. But so, we had to come on. Folks, you need to share and to like, because these moments are very important. This is a government, Dr. Ferdinand, who ran on a campaign of transparency,
Yes,
a
yes.
campaign of integrity, a campaign against corruption. This government, and I don't know exactly why. I have a lot of questions to ask tonight. One, was he fired or did he resign? Where's the 60 million from the house, the Hope Project? Where is that? And exactly why was he fired or resign? Did he, resigned? Exactly what is the reason? All right. So lots of questions to ask. Lots of questions to ask. Okay. So let's look into, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Dave, I know we'll put that back up very soon. If I'm not mistaken, this is the third minister that has resigned, isn't it?
I believe it is, Marcia, and not only the third minister that's resigned, but of course we had the firing of Senator. Oh goodness, her wonderful
Haynes.
young.
Well,
Yes, yes,
they will say it was on firing, but it was a similar discussion, and then
yes,
she
yes,
turned in her resignation.
yes,
So,
yes, yes.
so it's a
Politically
similar.
correct expressions.
Yes, 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 yes. So, you want to do the honors, Dr. Ferdinand, and read for us this article for those who have not seen the article or know what's happening. What's the
Well,
news?
I will say that Dave will have to make it a little larger now. I know he knows I have glasses, and I believe he might be thinking that I can read that easily. But I'll do my best. All right. So just go back up, Dave. Let's read what's under the caption there first. Member of Parliament for St. George South, Dwight Sutherland, has resigned from his portfolio as Minister of Housing, Lands, and just go back up. Housing, Lands, back up to the article itself. Right. Thank you so very much. Housing, Lands, and Maintenance. And incidentally, just to be clear, folk, he has not resigned from Parliament. He has resigned from Cabinet. So we're told. He is no longer a minister. All right. Starcom Network News has confirmed this development with Mr. Sutherland, who said that while he has resigned from his portfolio with immediate effect, wow, he has no plans of leaving electoral politics. Interesting. I would have thought, Marcia, that it would have been more specific. He has
Hmm.
no plans of leaving the government in terms of elections, but I find it rather interesting leaving electoral politics,
What are you thinking there? What are you thinking?
I don't know, I wonder if I wonder if he might cross the floor, I don't know.
To
We can
where?
only speculate. Well,
To
there's only
where?
one other place he can cross the floor
Oh
to
Lord.
go,
Listen,
you know.
listen. As far as I'm concerned on that matter, as far as I'm concerned, as a citizen of Barbados, if he going to cross that floor, he need to be able to say what happened to the $60,000, the
60
60
million,
million,
60
the
million.
60 million dollars,
Yes,
and
he has
he
to
would
come.
have to state exactly why. Why did you resign? Are you having
Yes.
health problems? Are you having a sick child at home? Is your mom in the hospital? Do you have a life-threatening disease? Why
Mm,
did you resign, Mr. Sutherland? If I were Thorne, that is what I would be asking. But I do agree with you that it seemed like a little opening is there. He says he has no plans of leaving electoral
Electoral
politics.
politics. That's right.
It,
That's right.
that,
And you know, it would seem to me that if, and I know it's not your personal life is not the, everybody's business, but when you're in public life in a real sense, Marcia, it is everybody's business. Nobody asked you to be in public life, you chose to be there. And so if you choose to resign, as was indicated, for personal reasons, then it might have really touched the sympathies of the Barbadian citizenry to know what those personal things are. Like you said, it could be an illness with his wife. I have shared with the Barbadian public here on the show and in other areas concerning the sickness of my wife, my wife's illness, and her having to travel and so on. Why? Because I'm in public life, and I don't want people seeing me out and my wife is not with me. Of course, when it comes to pastors and ministers, as soon as they see you out without your wife, questions are raised. I had a question, believe it or not, Marcia,
mm,
raised once with my daughter. I was out with my daughter, and somebody called my wife and told her that I was out with some other lady.
mhm.
So it's a case where I think, once you're in public life, I think there's a bit more explanation required. And you never know. It might be something that is in such a aspect that it might have got the sympathy of the people.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I would love for Dave if he could play, if he has at hand, could play the Prime Minister's response. I believe we've sent a little clip for you. So I'll give you some time. It's in your WhatsApp, some time for you to put that up. But
Marcia, I'm looking at a comment made here on the show that just now on CBC, Mr. Sutherland has pledged his allegiance to BLP and given Chris Gibbs and the government his maximum support on CBC News.
that's wonderful. I think because I don't see where Howie could cross and to go with Thorn. Thorn, and I can't see Mr. Thorn. I can't see why he would accept him over there.
Well,
you
he
know,
might he might have gone as an independent, or you never know.
as
He
an
might have gone with
independent,
a
well,
with another
yeah, that's
party.
fine. But I don't see what, because if I was part of his constituency, I would have many questions for Mr. Sutherland.
Yeah, and
But
again, Marcia,
mm,
he represents a constituency. Was he constituency consulted before he made his decision with regards to? Of course, he's not resigning from Parliament. He's pledged his allegiance, but he's still accountable to the constituents, even as a
yeah,
minister.
yeah, even as a minister. So let Dave just go ahead and play for me this clip. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Barbadians. After discussion, I received earlier today a request from the Honorable Dwight Sutherland to be relieved of his ministerial portfolio in housing, lands, and maintenance. I have accepted his request. He will remain as Member of Parliament for St. George South. This has been a request driven by him for personal reasons. I have asked, accordingly, the President of Barbados to appoint the Honorable Christopher Gibbs, Member of Parliament for St. Michael West, as the new Minister of Housing, Lands and Maintenance as of tomorrow's date effectively. I thank you for your attention, and I'd like to thank both the Honorable Dwight Sutherland for his service to the government, while at the same time looking forward to working with the Honorable Christopher Gibbs in this new portfolio. Thank you very much.
Mhm. Let me just say here that, looking at the just watching the Prime Minister on the screen here, I want to say to you, Prime Minister, you need to be worried. You need to be worried, because I believe that this is the first, well, in this season, because this is the third that has been the third minister that has resigned and one across the floor. It is my belief that there are more in there that you're going to see resigning, because I think there is a what I call a cesspool of corruption And this is not alluding to whether it was corruption, why Mr. Sutherland resigned, but I am saying I believe there is a cesspool of corruption that is happening inside this government. And the reason I say that is that you would have heard me on the show many times. I would come on and I would speak in parables, because I can't call people's names on here.
Yes, yes.
And you would hear me talk about young men, young bright Barbadian men who are, whether they're in fashion or they're in the arts, etc., and they have to get a grant, and they might have applied for a grant. And one of the things that these young men are saying to me and to others is that quite a number of our young men, when they are supposed to get a grant, or they believe that they might get a grant, that they're being asked to do, sexual favors for the grant.
Wow.
And
Wow.
we're talking about a government here. And so I want us to remember some of these things that I was saying online. And while I could not say the names of these people, and I'm going to go through a couple of them tonight, and this is why I'm saying to the Prime Minister, you need to be worried. There are young men that are walking and telling people in Barbados that there are people in government that they have to bend over in order for them to get a grant, in order for them to move ahead. There are young ladies that are pregnant, where there are people in government that are supposed to, they're supposed to take care of these people in need. And notice I'm using government to be wide, right? A wide term. And where they go to get help, and young ladies are being molested. There's a young girl right now in a particular constituency pregnant. The family member contacted us about it. There is a lot of it's a cesspool of corruption and nastiness that is happening in this BLP government. I can't call names on here, but I am telling you, that is what is happening all up and down this government. And I've used this program to call out to those in the LGBTQ community, those of you who are advocating for LGBTQ rights. And I've asked you on air, some of you have spoken to off air, and I said, so what about the rights of these young men? What about the rights of these young men who are in need? And they go knocking on the door of government, and government officials, it's being alleged, are telling them, well, you've got to do this in order to get this. What about who's advocating for those young men? Huh? I think that some of you might have remembered too that I was on the show and I told you about a young man who was threatened by somebody in government. You remember I told you about that?
Yes.
Threatened by somebody in government. And a little later in the night, he was shot. The person in government said he was going to shoot him. And it happened right here in this country. I'm not calling any names. I'm not like Sheriff Veronica, who I want to big up this evening. Yeah, but I can't call names. But let me tell you something that has happened right here in this country. People that we look up to, and that poor young man is not able to this day, not able to get any justice for what has happened to him. That is the kind of Barbados that we are living in. Corruption is a cesspool of corruption. And I saw this thing on Sheriff Veronica. I want to use this time to say to you, Sheriff Veronica, that while obviously there's no way I can agree with everything that you do, ma'am. It's just very different from what I do. And but I have to say that you make me wonder, Sheriff Veronica, if what you put out yesterday had anything to do with what happened today.
Wow.
Is
Wow.
it true that there was a Sutherland gang? I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question. Is it true there was a Sutherland gang that was running St. George South scared? A question. Did what Sheriff Veronica put out yesterday, did that have anything to do with the resignation or the firing today? And it says here, Stutterland gang busted. Stutterland. Okay. Uh, is it true that the St. George residents are feeling safe again? I don't know. So I'm just asking some questions. I know some of you will say you don't, Sheriff Veronica, whatever. But what I want to say also here is, if it is connected, because I don't know, if it is connected, we're looking here at the power of social media. Because if that cybercrime bill was in place, Dr. Ferdinand, and if it is connected, because you and I, we don't know that, and we can't assert that. But if there is any connection with what Sheriff Veronica put out yesterday and what happened today, you could see why people in government are going to want to shut down social media.
Yes, absolutely. And you can see as well, Marcia, why they want to pass that interception bill.
Correct. Because then they would be able to look into the people's phones and they would be able to know who sent it to Sheriff Veronica. If it is, and a big if there, if it is connected, right? They would want to look into the people's phone and they will find out who did it. But according to Sheriff Veronica, the people of St. George were willing to give up names. And she said she had names listed. And
That's
she
correct.
called, yes, you saw that. And she
Yes,
called the
I read.
police. And let me tell you, I was alerted to it that it was there because I don't normally watch her, but I was alerted to it by somebody in St. George who said, Marcia, take a young man. He said, take a look at this. And if it is connected, this woman need to take a bow, because we often, a lot of us bloggers and a lot of us, we take a lot of hits. People say that we're liars and we are propaganda, we spread propaganda, etc., etc. But I tell you something, this is one of the reasons they want all of this stop, Dr. Ferdinand, is because the potential of keeping them accountable. There is a potential there. And I tell you this, viewers as well. I tell you this, guys, that the Integrity in Public Life bill that they refuse to proclaim, you see, you don't want to do that, because they know that if they do that, a lot of these people, I believe, it's my opinion, that the Integrity in Public Life bill could cause lots of politicians to go to jail. They don't want to proclaim that bill. But I tell you, there's something for you all. It's called social media. And if Sheriff Veronica is right, that the people of St. George cannot stand it anymore, and they reach out to her, well, kudos to the people of St. George and
Correct.
to Sheriff Veronica,
Yes.
if it is
Yes.
connected, which we don't know.
Well, Marcia, this is the thing about social media. As you might recall, and we have talked about it before, I've mentioned it, and we chatted a bit about it as well, how crucial it was in Barack Obama's first successful presidential election in the United States. And he credited social media, the aspect of reaching out through social media. He credited significantly for the success of his presidential run. And you can understand why the government would want to pass a cybercrime bill to be able to take control of this type of information. Many may not remember, Marcia, this has really come about, as you would know, as a result of the pandemic, and
Mhm.
where the government sought to shut down all the social media platforms, accusing us of misinformation, false information. And of course, while speaking concerning the pandemic, we have now proven that in truth and in fact, it was the governments that were spreading false information and misinformation, and not the doctors and the different persons, professional individuals who were. So right now you have the situation as it relates to governance in this country, where even during Carifesta, Marcia, during that big talk event where a prime minister shared the platform with the prime minister of St. Vincent and Sir Hilary Beckles, and I don't recall the other lady, I think she was from Belize, I stand to be corrected, she made the comment that it is necessary, and speaking of her comment made at a heads of government meeting, for them to take control of the social media platform. She expressed that uh, explicitly. And
Yeah.
we, it should concern all of us when our freedom of expressions and freedom of speech is being threatened.
Yes. And one of the things that we are going to be shouting out loud about it when we go on the street, we didn't have I have it on the poster, but it's integrity in public life
Yes,
bill.
yes.
Because these here that you see in here, they're getting ready for an election. I'm telling you. They would not, if the Cherry Veronica thing is connected, if we don't know, if it is connected to what is happening here, let me tell you, that's a whole can of worms, and they don't want that for the elections that they're planning in a couple of months. But I believe by the end of the year there will be elections, so they're trying. They don't want it to happen. They do not want that to happen. So they're going to try to mop up and to clean up. But there was still another, there was still there what this isn't this a third one? It's a
Fourth,
third
I think
one.
it's the fourth.
That I know of three of them that they have something going on that's shady being said. It's being allegations of shady stuff, right? So I'm
Oh,
saying,
right,
I'm
right.
yeah, I'm saying, folks, and of course everybody is innocent until proven guilty. But there is a shadow. There is that shadowed over this government. There is a shadow of gangsterism. There is a shadow of criminality over the government, and up to as high as you could take it, there's a shadow of criminality. When you think that you have promised us all these houses, you took $60 million out of the HCF fund, right? You took 60 million and you cannot account for it. The public accounts committee have not met. Mr. Thorne has been trying to get to the bottom of this. Mr. Thorne, I believe sometimes he probably would have burst a vein inside of Parliament. God forbid that would happen. And Mr. Thorne has been pushing away, asking what has happened to this $60 million. So you mean to tell me the Minister of Housing, right, who was directly responsible for the $60 million, he's going to resign, and we don't know nothing that happened about it. But he could have the gall to say that he will remain in electoral electoral politics.
Electoral politics, yes.
He
And
will
Marcia,
remain in electoral politics. I'm saying here, but he has not yet told us what has happened to the $60 million taxpayer money. What has happened to that? Blight Sutherland. I'm calling you Blight Sutherland tonight. Go ahead, Dr. Ferdinand.
no,
And then
I just wanted to mention, not only the integrity bill, but you would recall that they gave a commitment to share with the country the assets of every single parliamentarian going into office. And to this day, we have never seen that come before the people of Barbados. As far as I'm aware, it is still being held, I believe, by the Speaker of the House, awaiting the proclamation of this integrity legislation for the people of Barbados to know. So persons could potentially leave office, and we don't know what has happened during their period. If they went in, like some persons in the US, for the salary you're working for, how could you become a multi-millionaire on the salary that you're working for? I mean, I've had my own personal experiences within the context of this that I have shared on a couple of occasions. But I do know that when you're dealing with matters of funding for the government, I was told blatantly by an attorney at law. He asked me the question, "What did you promise the minister?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Well, you would have to give something to the minister in order to have that kind of funding approved." So I have had firsthand experiences of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that, Dr. Ferdinand. Dave, you have something there on the screen for us. I thought you had Mr. Thorne. Okay, you're going to do this one first? Go right ahead. Okay, Kim Tay saying if the foundation crack, you got to push down the house because there is a shroud. There is a cloud. They could call all the election they want. They could call, they're getting ready to call an election, Barbados. And I cannot believe the gall of this man, Blight Sutherland. I cannot believe his gall to say that he's still in electoral politics, and we don't know what has happened to the 60 million. You have not told us why you have resigned. You are so important that you could get up and you could resign. You could just resign, and we don't know why you resign, but telling us that you're still available for people to vote for you. Are you mad? That is some madness. I believe the people of St. George, is it South? Is he
Yes,
St. George
George
South?
South.
St.
Yes,
George South, you need to ask this man here on the screen, because you need to ask Blight Sutherland. You need to find out from Blight Sutherland exactly. So Blight, tell us why did you resign? We want to know. Do not put him back anywhere to serve any place until you know why he resigned.
correct.
But you know what? Some
Correct.
of you will be quick to put him back there. So you BLP people, but you don't. You would say Donville, who went and did his time, you
And
will
you
not
will
have
raise the
anything to do with
question.
him, right?
Yeah, and they will, and not, they will raise a question to do with him. You know, not to give a person a chance to to get back themselves, and to get that opportunity to make themselves useful again in spite of what they've gone through. But I wanted to say this as well, Marcy. I watched the video with the Prime Minister, and I've been doing some research in terms of body language because I just find this aspect very intriguing. And I was watching how much her eyes shifted. She did not look in the camera with that confidence and a surety that we are used to seeing her when she's speaking, confidently indicating, "I have received the resignation," as I'm looking into the camera right now. She wasn't like this. She was looking away, and in my view, she kind of stumbled through this particular announcement, and that suggested to me that there is more in the mortar than the pestle. And then, Marcia, in addition to that, you talk about the resignations, but when you put that together with the number of bills that have had to be recalled and redone and reset and edited and amended, this government should be very, very, very worried.
Very worried. Very worried indeed. Dave, can you play the what you have before us?
Recently resigned Housing Minister Dwight Sutherland was out and about in his constituency this afternoon. He says while the announcement of his resignation as Minister of Housing, Lands and Maintenance may be sad for some people, he will now have more time to focus on his constituency and to spend with his family. He says he will be doing all of this while remaining a member of the Barbados Labour Party, on which ticket he became the St. George South MP.
And I want to thank my son for coming this afternoon with me, and the members of my branch, my first constituency assistant, and my present one, and my public relations officer and PA. Certainly, this afternoon is a constituency afternoon, and people are coming in and leaving. I pledge, lots of people have passed through, pledging their support, but I told them I am still a member of the Barbados Labour Party, and I pledge my support and continued dedication to the people of St. George South and and indeed Barbados, not just in Georgia South, but Barbados.
Mr. Sutherland is asking those who may be disappointed in his resignation to hold firm.
You know, I've done a lot of work, but like I said, it's for personal reasons that I have resigned. And I know the person that is coming after me is my very good friend, um, Chris Gibbs, and I will give him maximum support. And I know that with the government policies, whether it's myself or Chris Gibbs, we can indeed impact all the constituents of this country in providing affordable housing, resilient housing, and housing indeed that can allow Barbadians to indeed own a piece of this rock. And that's our mantra.
Constituents also have their say on the resignation.
Dave, we could
Right.
stop. We could stop here a little bit. You
Yeah.
know what I want to say here, viewers. What I want to say here is this. I want it to be very. We send a loud and clear message to the Prime Minister of this country, Prime Minister Mia Motley. We are sending you us here on the Marcy Week show, the Barbados, the loyal opposition. We are sending you a clear message that this man, this minister resigning, has nothing to do with that 60,000. With us stop asking about that 60,000. We will not stop asking about the 60 million. I keep saying 60,000. We will not stop asking about the $60 million. You better understand. The Prime Minister Mia Motley understand that we will not relent in asking for the people's money, the $60 million. Whether you want to use this situation and use him as a scapegoat or whatever you want to do, understand, as long as we have breath in our bodies, go ahead and call the election. But you still will have to give an account of the $60 million that was used up. And they're gone, but hardly any houses.
No accountability.
You were saying something, Mr.
No, I find it very interesting. Marcia, I've been in marketing for a number of years now, in sales and marketing, and I learned to listen to people. Being a pastor and a minister of religion and a counselor, I've learned to listen carefully to people when they're speaking. And I noticed something. Dwight pledged his allegiance to St. George South. Dwight pledged his allegiance to the people of Barbados. Dwight pledged his allegiance to the Barbados Labour Party, but he never pledged his allegiance to the Prime Minister. And I find that telling, because if you are in good standing with the Prime Minister, any Prime Minister, whether it be Arthur, Adams, Barrow, whoever, and you resign from a cabinet, then the first pledge that you should make should be the pledge to the leader of the party or the leader of the country, unless there's a problem. And he never mentioned the Prime Minister once. He mentioned the people, he mentioned the country, he mentioned the Labour Party, but he never mentioned the Prime Minister. And I want to leave that out there for people to draw their own conclusions.
Yeah, good observation. And especially after she said, after discussion, I received, after discussion, this is what the Prime Minister says, I received earlier today a request. And it's always like that discussion. What was the discussion about? What was it? Was it about what Sheriff Veronica says is happening there, right? With that alleged gang there in St. George South? Are the people being terrorized for true? Is that really true? Yeah. That was her opening sentence. After discussion, I received earlier today a request. Huh? Somebody said she was a shadow of her boisterous self of 2018, where they were going to put people in jail, and they were going to pass an integrity in public life legislation, and they were going to come up against corruption, and they were going to do this, and they were going to do that. Where is all of that now? Let's hear from Mr. Thorne. Dave? We can't, the volume is down.
There's no redemption to come here. So it is no redemption to come here and say that they've repaid $4 million. It is no redemption to come here and say that they're not part of the allocation. We understand what this government is doing. We understand that this government is attempting to atone for the sin that has been Hope. And they're allowing Hope to extricate themselves from the housing mandate in this country. Not enough of those houses are available to poor people in this country.
You see, that's inevitably the accountability that is required of the people of Barbados. He resigns as Minister of Housing, and we have no explanation, no accountability with regards to that particular project. Now, this is something that is being raised continuously. We've raised it on this show over and over and over. And Mr. Thorne has raised it in the House. Mr. Thorne attempted to have a public accounts committee. And incidentally, Marcia, you might recall, I believe it was the Auditor General that also drew attention to this whole matter of the Hope Project and monies where the government is concerned unaccounted for, as should have been done. And Mr. Thorne attempted to raise the matter with the Public Accounts Committee and have a meeting with the Public Accounts Committee to look into it. The Prime Minister herself, if I recall, indicated that she would engage an investigation into it, which we've heard nothing about since then. Now, was it attempted on this occasion, and as a result of the falling out between herself and Mr. Sutherland, he's resigned? I don't know. I'm asking questions just like yourself, Marcia.
Yeah. And I think this is what Dave has. And while Dave sets this up, I was talking about discussion, right?
Yes.
She said that she had a discussion, and after discussion, I received earlier today a request. And the big question is, who did you have the discussion with, Prime Minister? Madam Prime Minister, exactly who did you have the discussion with? Right? And about what? What did you discuss? With, and so this is how they come with these things, and they know to skip, and leave out pieces. So you had a discussion. Who did you have the discussion with? With whom? And about what? And that's a piece that the constituents in St. George South should be asking.
Yes.
You should be asking. This man should not, in his arrogance, is going to come and say, I will continue in electoral, politics. Arrogance. But Dave, go ahead and play, please. We're not hearing it. Are you hearing, Dr. Freddy?
No, I'm not.
Still.
Yes, no.
Has it had teething problems? Yes, it has. And have we found out things that I don't like? Yes, we have. And have we taken action with respect to some of them? Yes, we have. But I'm not going to prejudice it this evening, because I've asked for a full investigation into every aspect of it. And it was intended always to be a revolving fund, started at 10 million. And it was intended to be a revolving fund, sir. It still is. And therefore, the monies that have been put into Hope, and in some instances, national housing, will be repaid, because it is not a grant. It is not the grant like the Water Authority got from the Green Climate Fund, or the Blue-Green Bank got from the Green Climate Fund. It is a loan. But because of the hiccups that we have had in the execution and in the procurement, because Hope also started during the back end of the pandemic.
No, so here's the thing, Miss Prime Minister, and that's why you should resign. Prime Minister E.M.M.A, I am saying to you tonight, the Barbadian people should request, after discussion, right? Request, right, for your resignation. Why? You promised us, this is about, what is this? It's about 2 years now, that there would be an investigation in Hope. Can you provide us the results of the investigation? Could you provide us? We want to know about our $60 million. Can you provide us the results? What is the report? We want to understand the report of the investigation. I know that's what you said. You would have had an investigation. What is the report?
And the thing about it, Marcy, is that the BLP set the bench. They set the bar for integrity and transparency and accountability. They looked at the previous administration and said, we are never going to be like them. We're going to set that bar right up there. We're going to give an account. We're going to be transparent. Why have we not seen that, particularly with regards to this specific ministry and this specific minister and this specific project? Why have we not seen that? That's the bar she set.
Yeah. We saw there was a minister, a particular minister who, I don't know how it got the $7,500 got on our desk, but somehow I don't know how it happened. It's a miracle, and that went, and we didn't hear anything about it. Nothing more about it. That $7,500 check, it just flew. It just flew in. Okay? Nobody knows what happened to it. You have people in government, as I said, little boys are complaining for them. Men molesting in government. I said. Men and little boys complaining, little girls. I spoke to somebody today, a constituent, pregnant. And all the little girl wanted was a little help. I say these things on here, and you all, because I can't call names like Sheriff Veronica, you think I'm making them up. I'm not making them up. I sit here and I get calls. And so I'm saying this. I see Miss McLean is there. So I want to just say, I just want to say this. There is a shroud. There is a cloud.
Yes, that's correct.
There is a dark cloud hanging over this administration, a cloud of criminality, a cloud of corruption. Is a nasty, dirty cloud of corruption is hanging over criminality, gangsterism. There's even allegation of drug trafficking hanging over this government. And you're going to tell me you still are going to call an election, and because you believe Barbadians are not going to ask you any questions? You think we're going to forget about our $60 million? But Miss McLean is here.
Yeah, I see her. I see her in the green room there. Let's bring her in, because normally, Maxine, it's 2 against 1 flip. But
it's
tonight
you and Brian. Good evening.
I am the one. Yes, we are. Welcome, Maxine. It's so good to see you.
Thank you
Great
very
to have
much.
you to the show.
I guess this is the only time you will really get to laugh, eh?
I tell you.
We're dealing with some serious
matters.
Serious
matters.
Yes.
You know, I was listening from the beginning, and let me say this. Marcia and I had discussed my talking about implementation. And you know, this is a classic example of the failure of government to properly implement and deliver on its promises. When we look at this whole housing fiasco, and there's so much, but let me respond quickly to a couple of those things. And I listened to the Prime Minister. I listened to the clip you showed with former Minister Mr. Dwight Sutherland. He can't tell us why he resigned, because he did not resign. He was fired.
Yes.
He was fired. I listened. He was fired. I deduced that from his comment, his tone, and the Prime Minister's. Now think about it. Apart from her opening comment, and I think y'all refer to that after discussions or whatever, discussions that I'm going to fire you, I'm going to replace you. Now, if for personal reasons, and I bring to the table my experience in management, my involvement with companies of significant size, different sectors. John Brown or Mary Smith is going to be asked to resign, but you want to save some face.
Yes.
And you say to them, you're going to be fired, so I'm going to ask you to resign. I'm going to give you the opportunity to resign. Now,
Yep.
if you genuinely are resigning for personal reasons, whether it's health, family situation, we know that Mr. Sutherland's wife is wife. I don't know that there's anything else that I never heard that they got divorced. So his wife is our ambassador in Ghana. She has been living in West Africa for probably more than a year now. So if he had taken the decision to say, look, Prime Minister and cabinet and parliamentary colleagues and constituents, I want to join my wife, then you would hear something like that. And you would hear not only, or even if they didn't give you the reason, you would hear the Prime Minister singing his praises.
Yes, yes.
She would be singing his praises to say, look, I'm sorry that he has to go. How can I? He's given of his time to the country and the constituents, but there comes a time when you have to put personal needs and circumstances first. You had none of that. You had a comment, and as you said, the Prime Minister was very subdued. And as you said, Ferdinand, I have done in my training in management over the years the whole issue of body language. One of the things that managers, especially people, when I did training in international business, international management, and they teach you these things about body language. And the Prime Minister gives herself away all the time. Her eyes shift.
Yes.
Her eyes shift. And if you hear people comment on these things, so I listen to that, and I say to Mr. Sutherland, sir, you are the scapegoat. And I'll say why. We have gone through in this program the multiple failures. And just one ministry, housing. What? The Lancaster project, where they were supposed to have all of these the photovoltaic arrangement and the pricing, and we exposed the comments of the then chairman, who we know was very closely connected to another very high official in this government, showing how they were able to benefit. And we can go back, because I went through my notes, Marcia, tonight. You want to see, Marcia? We sure all of these.
Wow.
All of this is Marcia. Sure.
Mine
you understand?
Wow.
And there's another one that I didn't even pick up, because
Lord.
I keep my notes. We do our analysis. So back to the explanation, sorry. So clearly that is the case. Now, Pastor Ferdinand raised the issue, and so did you, Marcia, and about the promise of the Prime Minister to do an investigation into Hope. And I asked the question, are you trying to clear the deck as you prepare for an election?
Mm-hmm.
And in trying to clear the deck, are you throwing, he ain't the guy on the burn that he get pelted in the water, in some rough waters? Because I have a suspicion, and I asked the question, are you preparing to come with some kind of so-called response to our result to say, well, I am keeping my commitment about an investigation, when in fact the Public Accounts Committee has not been able to investigate in a way that would help us to get a thorough investigation. So at the end of the day, it's the 60 million. It is, as I said, is Lancaster. I would have sent, if we have time, I sent a couple clips to Dave in case he could get them. But you would hear the minister promising about the steel houses and so on. That's another fiasco. I saw something recently, and I didn't get a chance to investigate it, but I certainly will look, because there was some other new project recently that that Mr. Sutherland spoke about. I actually put together what I call his famous last words, some of his famous last words. And I'm okay. This is 1 August 22nd, Barbados Government Information Service, Minister of Housing, Lands and Maintenance, Dwight Sutherland has praised the Cooperative Investment Fund for its bold and decisive role in financing housing projects that expand home ownership opportunities for Barbadians. My question is, and it goes on to say, speaking at the official opening of the Southview Housing Development, Mr. Sutherland described home ownership as the essence of every Barbadian and commended the cooperative sector. Now, I certainly, as a member of that sector, would be very happy to see them involved, but I want to know what is government's involvement in this, you know, and what is its present situation? What was, well, let me back up. What was conceptualized? What is its present situation, and where it is, and so on. And of course, as I say, what is government's role? Because we heard a lot about housing, but we have seen very little of substance delivered. And I think it is nice to pelt this gentleman under the bus, you know. Back to this one who restructured amid scrutiny. Mr. Sutherland was there telling the government has slashed nearly $1 million from the operating costs.
Yes, I remember.
You know, and all of that. But I would say step back a little bit, because beyond Mr. Sutherland, I'm not excusing him because he is very much the minister. But I asked the question, where did the fiasco of hope start? What role did the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, who at one time, if I remember correctly, was Minister responsible for housing? If I remember correctly, there were other housing ministers. What role did they all play? When did this project start? Who was the minister? What did cabinet members have to say? Because remember, we were talking about these expatriates, either from South Africa, the UK, or something, receiving probably something like $30,000 a month as part of this project.
Yes, yes.
So my question is, what was Dwight Sutherland's role there? But he was a cabinet minister, so he had a chance to open his mouth and comment. But beyond him, who else should be taking the rap for this? You know, so I look at this and I smile, because somebody tried to wash their hands and say, well, you know, look, I clean a house. And we gonna pelt him under the bus. And he may be deserving of being thrown under the bus, tell the truth. Yeah. Because I have very serious concerns when people sit down and carry on and on about these things. Now, this is an interesting document that I saw this evening when I was doing research. And here was the minister in his red shirt at his party conference, you know, taking a very strong position on what, whether there should be a lawsuit, rehope, and so on, and defending these things. So my position on this, Marcia, is that as I look at his performance as a minister, to put it nicely, it has been far from stellar. It has been nebulous in terms of achievements. And there hasn't been a lot of talk to, because he don't talk much, because you know he's not the most articulate or, you know, minister in the bunch. But I really think that this is part of a ploy on the part of the head, the Prime Minister, to say to Barbadians, look at me, I appear to be doing something to clean up the mess. But the mess in housing is massive. Yeah. It is massive. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of money that has been expended. I mean, where are we with those steel houses? Where are we, as I said, with Lancaster? And all some of the other things that they mentioned. There was a project somewhere in Christchurch, you know, because they entered into to certain PPP, public-private partnerships, and we are not hearing full accountability for these things. So this really and truly, to me, as you said, Marcia, this is in tying it with what I was thinking about talking tonight, is a clear case of an ongoing inability to efficiently and effectively implement all of these projects. But in doing so, the cost to the taxpayer has been substantial. There has been a lack of accountability, but she can't lock him up, Ryan Rock. But she has plans to lock in the last administration. But I will say this. Anybody who takes a dispassionate look at the projects and programs of the previous administration, you will see that you did not have this kind of gross abuse of the taxpayers' pockets. And I challenge anybody, because I can bring the facts. I don't talk from an empty position. I talk from facts. And if you go and look at it, you will see that that is the case. Whether it is a case of failing to deliver. And while we're talking about Mr. Sutherland, I listened today, and I called in there, I was listening to Brass Tacks, so everybody would know who today's host was. Trying to argue or arguing with one of my DLP colleagues, where the person was talking about implementation and projects and whatever. And the suggestion, well, you had mistakes. And governments have made mistakes coming forward. But the thing is, if you do not learn from your mistakes, and if you came into office as this government did, promising to do better,
yes,
being in a position monetarily to do better, and you are doing worse, and I challenge anybody. And you know, it is interesting because I call it a different, they're judging using different standards. I listened to another moderator on that same program, and this is what she had to say in relation to Carrie Fester. It is money well spent. So in other words, these are the things, it was money well spent. Now, I cannot say that until I know how much money was spent, you know, what was intended to be spent.
What was it spent on?
Having spent it, what you spent it on in terms of short-term benefits, medium and long-term. Because if you go back to, and this is where when we get a lot of talk, and I look, as I talk about housing and I look at the situation with Mr. Sutherland, and I will tell you the same thing probably, if, well, as I say, we don't know, but as I tell you, and I say it again, I will come back to the position about what happened to him. And I say, before I move on to finish the point I started, Mr. Sutherland cannot tell us why he resigned, because as far as I'm concerned, he was pushed. He did not step off. I wouldn't even say a jump. He did not step off well, the personal reasons is that I was told you gotta resign. That is how based on listening to the Prime Minister, based on listening to him, and based on all that I have seen within the context of his ministry, the issues that the public have asked, those are the things. Having said that, I just want to go back to this notion of people saying that I'm comfortable so long as I had a good time and they spent this money is okay. We don't know how much was spent. And in terms of this, this is similar, you know, Carrie Fester is similar to this housing issue. I think, Marcia, that we will have to sit down and really try to tally all the monies that we've heard. How much money has been borrowed for what, from which fund, from which international multilateral agency, and whatever the case may be. How much money has been spent, where it has gone, how many houses have been delivered, was the quality of the houses delivered, how many problems they have had. So, you know, at the end of the day, the quote-unquote resignation, and I will stop at this, the quote-unquote resignation of Mr. Sutherland is really a reflection of a lot of what you said is going on. Failure of government to do things properly, and not only to do things properly in terms of implementation, but also the reflection of an environment. I think you categorized it as the sordid things that you mentioned. And I'm trying to remember the words you use in terms of corruption, you know, apparent corruption and so on. I saw the same thing that you mentioned going around with a voice note. I mean, a a voice. I don't know the young person, but the kind of assertions that a young man can make with what he probably feels with a level of confidence is frightening.
It is.
Because I will say this, no adult in his or her quote unquote right mind, in my case, I would not assume responsibility, let me put it this way, for somebody who is not mentally deficient or so as an adult. But I certainly would not allow anybody who says that they're related to me to impugn me without me taking action about it.